Okay, we're doing sequences in chapter 6. Now, this is pretty easy because about half the chapter can be done on the calculator, but the hard part, well, you'll see it a little later. So let's just get right down to it. There are two types of sequences, a finite and an infinite. Makes sense. Finite sequence ends and an infinite sequence goes on forever. So, 2, 4, 6, 8 is an example of a finite sequence. If I take that same sequence and then just put dot, dot, dot next to it, that's an infinite sequence because it goes on forever and ever. You have two words that you're going to learn this chapter: explicit and recursive. And these are going to be very important words throughout the chapter. You're not just going to see them today and not see them again until the test. Explicit, you guys are pretty familiar with that word. Anytime you pick up a CD by some rap artist, it says it's got explicit lyrics. That means the lyrics are very full of curses. They get right to the point, they curse. No beating around the bush, they just come out and drop the F-bomb. Recursive means to look back, to recur. I'll show you what that means. All right, in this example, we have 2, 4, 8, and 16. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to look at this and we want to find out, what did I do to 2 to get to 4? Well, I have two choices. I could have either added 2 or multiplied by 2. But whatever I did from 2 to get to 4, I have to do the same throughout the entire sequence. And I can see here that I multiplied by 2. That's how I got. All right, so now the question is asking me to find the next three terms. Well, that's pretty simple. I'm going to take 2, multiply it to 16 to get 32. And then I'll take 32, multiply it by 2, and get 64. Then I'll take 64, multiply it by 2, and I get 128. Now, you're going, wow, this is really easy. You're right, it really is. And what you just did was recursive. Right? You looked at the term before, you referred to the preceding term, to get the next term. And actually, I spelled preceding wrong. Love spell check. Explicit. So explicit means you don't have to refer to the term before it. You can go right to the term and get it. Now that's the hard part. That's what you're going to deal with in section 6.3 or 4, I believe, where you have to figure out a formula for the sequence. Well, I'll tell you what the formula for this sequence is. The formula for this sequence is any term can be found by taking the number 2 and raising it to its term place. What? It's not as hard as it looks. See what happened here? N refers to the place. Okay, so up here, the number 2 is in the first place, the number 4 is in the second place, the number 8 is in the third place, the number 16 is in the fourth place, the number 32 we found to be the fifth, the 64 was the sixth, and 128 was the seventh. And some of you can see it now. All right, let's say I wanted to find, the 200th term. Well, I am not about to take this sequence and go out 199 places. So we can use the explicit formula. A is always a variable we refer to sequence with. Now, you can use any letter you want. You can use S, you can use Q. I don't know why the math books picked A. But to find the 200th term of sequence A, we simply take 2 and raise it to the 200th power. All right, we'll do more explicit and recursive later on. Write the first 3 terms of this sequence. Here they are referring to that A again. So what this is saying, okay, is to find any term of sequence A, we simply take the term number, multiply it by 3, and minus 1. So we're going to start. We're going to put 1 in for n. So every time we see a 1, every time we see an n, we put in the number 1. The first term of sequence A is, ta-da, 2. The second term of sequence A is found by taking 3, multiplying it by 2, and minusing 1. So the second term of sequence A is, ta-da, 5. And to find the third term of sequence A, we take 3, multiply it by 3, and minus 1. So the third term of sequence A is 8. Isn't this hard? And you know what? Your calculator can do it all. Go to your calculator and press second function stat. When you press second function stat, this window comes up over here. You're going to scroll over to OPS, which stands for operations, and then choose step 5. When you choose step 5, the calculator is waiting for you to enter. Now, it's waiting for you to enter this formula, so you might want to pause and write this down somewhere in your notes. Oops, that was supposed to be a highlighter pen. Didn't work that well. In fact, that looks ugly. I gotta get rid of that. Anyway, what it does is it asks for the sequence. In other words, you're going to type in the formula. You're going to define the variable. In this case, it's always going to be variable x. You're going to put in the beginning term and the ending term. And in this example, there was my variable, 3x minus 1, there's the sequence, variable x, and I did the first 5 terms here, but you can see we got the same answers, 2, 5, and 8 as my first 3, and then the next 2 would be 11 and 14. Now, on this handy-dandy calculator, this is the new exciting ones you'll get to use next year. I go to Menu, I go to Statistics, because this is what this is. I go to Operations, and there's my sequence right there. And you see the calculator is waiting for me to enter. Well, the first thing I say is, well, I'm going to do sequence 3x minus 1. My variable is x. I want to go from the first place, and I said to the 5th place, return, and there are the first 5 numbers of my sequence. Pretty nifty. Okay, write the first 5 terms of this. Whoa, what is this? A sub n is negative 2a sub n minus 1? Huh? And a sub 1 equals negative 2? Well, here's a big clue right here. Okay, I want to set my mind straight here. So I got to find the first 5 terms. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set out 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I just like putting these boxes up here so I keep my mind straight. And they represent my places. Okay, so they tell me the first term of sequence A is negative 2. Now what they gave you here was a recursive formula. To find the nth value of the sequence A, you have to go to the term before it and multiply it by -2. So, in other words, to find the second term of the sequence, we have to take -2 and multiply it by A 2 minus 1. Well, A sub 2 minus 1 is A sub 1. Oh, and A sub 1 was -2. So my next term is -4. And now I see that all I'm doing is taking the term before it and multiplying it by -2. And that's how I get the next term. So -4 times 2 is -8. Oops, sorry. That was positive. Wow. -8 times -2 is positive 16. And positive 16 times -2 is -32. Whoops. Got so caught off in trying to make sure you guys see the difference between explicit and recursive. So this gives it away that it's recursive, because this means term come on, move down, and then this means term before. N minus 1. All right, last example. All right, example 4. Write the first 5 terms. A sub 3 is 25. Oh, thank goodness. There's a term right there I can put in. Now, if I look again, this is again a recursive formula, because you need to know the term before in order to get the next term, because n comes before n plus 1. So in this case, the only term I know is the third term. So I'm going to put 3 in for n. So a sub 3 plus 1 equals 2.5 times a sub 3. Well, a sub 3 plus 1 means I'm looking at the fourth term. Great, don't know what the fourth term is. And to find the fourth term, I take 2.5 and I multiply it by the third term, which is 25. So the fourth term is 2.5 times 25. So that would be 62.5. Awesome. That's great. That's how I find each term. I just multiply each term by 2.5. So I'll multiply that by 2.5. So 62.5, let's come over here. Let's calculate. So 62.5 times 2.5 gets me 156.25. I don't know why I have the sixth term there. I don't need it. It said only do the first 5 terms. Well, how am I going to find these? Well, that's easy. If I multiplied to get this term, I guess I'll divide to go backwards. So I'll just take 25 here and divide it by 2.5. And I get 10. I'll take 10 and divide it by 2.5. So 10 divided by 2.5 equals 10 times 2 over 5. So that's 4. You probably would have done it all on your calculator. All right, that's it. Study for your test. Bye.